August 17th, 1943. Raththorpe Abbots, Norfolk, England. The morning air is cool and still. Mist hangs low over the concrete runways. Inside a corrugated steel briefing hut, men sit shoulder to shoulder on wooden benches. Flight jackets zipped, Mae Wests fastened, maps folded on their knees. No one is talking. A clock on the wall ticks loudly. Each second feels heavier than the last. At the front of the room, a curtain hangs over a large map of Europe. Behind it, red strings and pins wait, unseen. Everyone knows what that means. The door opens. A senior officer steps inside. His boots echo once on the floor. He does not smile. He does not rush. He waits until every eye is on him. Then, slowly, he reaches for the curtain. You can almost feel the room tighten as it's pulled aside. Germany fills the wall. The red line begins in eastern England. It crosses the North Sea. It continues deep into enemy airspace. Too deep. A few crews exchange glances. Some lean forward, squinting, hoping they are wrong. They are not. The target is marked clearly. Industrial. Strategic, heavily defended. Regensburg. And farther still. Schweinfurt. This is not a diversion. This is not a feint. This is the main effort. The officer's voice is steady as he explains the plan. 2 separate bomber forces, one after the other. No fighter escort for much of the route. The distances are simply too great. Someone at the back exhales sharply. Another man stares down at his hands. The briefing continues. Altitudes, timings, assembly points, radio silence. Every detail is precise. Every detail assumes the order will be carried out. What is not said matters more. They all know the German defenses. Radar-guided flak, coordinated fighter control, concentrated belts of guns around key industrial cities. They know the casualty rates from recent missions. They have seen empty bunks in the barracks. They have watched crews fail to return. Still, the order stands. Strategic bombing requires decisions made far from the battlefield. This one was no different. Somewhere else far from this hut, men studied charts, production numbers, and tonnage calculations. They weighed risk against output, losses against results. From that distance, the math worked. From here, it feels different. A navigator quietly traces the route with his finger. A tail gunner checks his notes again, though he already knows them by heart. A pilot sits very still, eyes fixed on the red line, calculating fuel, timing, and luck. Luck matters more than anyone wants to admit. The briefing ends without ceremony. Any questions? No one speaks. There is nothing to ask that would change the destination. Outside, engines begin to cough to life. One by one, the bombers warm up. The sound rolls across the airfield like distant thunder. Ground crews move quickly, methodically. Bomb bay doors open. Final checks are made. The aircraft are heavy with fuel and explosives. Each bomber carries 10 men. 10 individual chances. 10 individual fears. As crews climb aboard, the order follows them. It is no longer lines on a map. It is a heading set into a compass, a throttle pushed forward, a runway rushing beneath wheels. The first aircraft lifts off. Then another. Then another. From above, the formation looks orderly, controlled, almost calm. But inside the cockpits, the reality is sharper. You can almost hear the unspoken thoughts over the intercom, calculations about flak density, about fighter response times, about whether today will be their turn. The doctrine says daylight precision bombing will break enemy industry, that massed formations can defend themselves, that discipline and altitude will carry them through. Those ideas are about to be tested again. The bombers turn east. England slips away behind them. Ahead lies open water, and beyond it, the most heavily defended airspace on Earth. The order has been given. The engines are running. There is no turning back now. But as the formations press forward, one question hangs over every aircraft, unspoken but shared by all. What happens when doctrine meets reality? The North Sea passes beneath them in silence. Below, grey water stretches to the horizon. Above, the sky is clear, almost welcoming. The formation holds steady, bomber after bomber locking into position with practiced precision. At this stage of the flight, everything still feels controlled. Fighter escorts weave nearby. P-47 Thunderbolts, silver and confident, their presence reassuring. They are close enough to see hand signals through cockpit glass. Close enough to believe protection will last. Inside the bombers, routines take over. Navigators check drift and ground speed. Radio operators monitor channels kept deliberately quiet. Gunners scan empty sky, their movements slow, methodical, conserving energy. No one speaks more than necessary. The coast of occupied Europe appears ahead. Thin, dark lines against the water. A boundary that matters more than any drawn on a map. As the formation crosses it, flak bursts begin almost immediately. Not close yet. Black puffs far below and off to the sides. German gunners testing altitude and speed. The bombers do not change course. They were never meant to. Doctrine demands steadiness. Tight formations. Predictable paths. Any deviation invites chaos and collisions. The escort fighters climb slightly, adjusting position. They are nearing the limits of their range. Everyone knows this moment is coming. Fuel gauges do not lie. The Thunderbolts were built for power, not distance. Drop tanks help, but not enough. Not today. One by one, the fighters begin to peel away. They waggle wings, a final visual farewell. Then they turn west. Inside the bombers, the sky suddenly feels larger, quieter, exposed. You can almost feel the shift in atmosphere, even without a word spoken. Gunners tighten their grips. Pilots glance at engine instruments more often. Navigators double-check headings they already trust. The formation presses on. German radar stations have been tracking them since the coast. Now the information flows inward, bearing, altitude, speed passed from station to station, refined with each update. Fighter bases across Germany receive the same message. Enemy bombers inbound. Deep penetration. Multiple groups. Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf FW-190s are already warming up. They will not arrive all at once. They never do. Instead, they come in waves, timed, directed, designed to exploit fatigue and confusion. The first attacks begin just past the escort line. High-speed passes from the front. Cannon fire flashes briefly, then disappears. A bomber shudders as rounds strike aluminum skin. Formation discipline holds, for now. Gunners return fire. Tracers arc outward, scattered but determined. The sky fills with intersecting lines of light that vanish almost as quickly as they appear. A bomber drops slightly out of position. Only a few feet. Only a moment. But it is noticed. German fighters adjust instantly. The lagging aircraft becomes a focus point. More passes follow, from above, from below, from angles designed to stay out of defensive fire as long as possible. Inside that bomber, men work furiously. Engines are pushed. Controls strain. The pilot fights to rejoin the formation. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it does not. Elsewhere, flak grows heavier. Bursts now bracket the formation precisely. The airframe rattles as fragments tear past. There is no single explosion to fear. It is the accumulation, the small hits, the unseen damage, a fuel line nicked, a control cable frayed. Still, the order remains unchanged. Maintain course. Maintain altitude. Press on to the target. This is the core assumption of the strategy, that enough bombers, flying together, can absorb punishment and still deliver results. But as minutes stretch into hours, the cost begins to show. A gap appears in the formation, then another. The bombers keep moving forward, but the sky behind them is no longer full. And ahead, still waiting, are the targets marked on that map in Norfolk cities surrounded by guns, defended by fighters that have not yet committed. The most dangerous part of the mission is still to come. The first warning comes from the flak. Not scattered bursts anymore. Not ranging shots. This is something else. As the bombers approach the target area, the sky ahead darkens. Layers of black explosions bloom at precise altitudes, stacked one above another. The German gun crews have had time to prepare. Their tables are set, their timing refined. This is the defensive ring. Inside the lead aircraft, the bombardier lies flat behind the northern sight. His world narrows to crosshairs and dials, wind drift, ground speed, altitude, all feeding into a single calculation. The bomb run has begun. Once it starts, there can be no evasive action. The formation must fly straight and level. Any sudden maneuver would throw off the aim, not just for one aircraft, but for every bomber following it. The order now demands stillness. Flak detonates closer. The sound is no longer distant. It is a hard, concussive oodar against metal skin. Shrapnel punches through fuselages, plexiglass fractures, oxygen lines hiss. A tail gunner reports damage to his turret. His voice is calm, almost detached, as if that might keep the situation manageable. Another crew loses an engine. The propeller feathers automatically. The aircraft yaws slightly, then steadies. They hold position. German fighters return in force. Head-on attacks, time to coincide with the bomb run. Closing speeds are enormous. There is barely time to track, aim, fire. The sky is crowded now. Flak bursts, tracers, falling debris. You can almost feel the strain of discipline pulling against instinct. Every part of a crew wants to react, to turn away, to climb or dive, but the doctrine is absolute. Hold the line. Bombardiers call out corrections. Steady, steady. The target fills the sight. Factories, rail yards, storage depots, shapes reduced to geometry and motion. At the release point, the call comes. Bombs away. One by one, bomb bay doors open. Aircraft lighten suddenly, lurching upward as their loads fall free. Thousands of pounds of explosives drop toward the industrial heart below. The formation begins its turn away. Only now can evasive action resume. But the damage has already been done. Some bombers cannot turn. Control surfaces respond sluggishly or not at all. Smoke trails mark aircraft that are already lost, though they remain in the air for the moment. Fighter attacks intensify during the withdrawal. German pilots know this phase well. They press hard, exploiting confusion and weakened formations. A bomber peels off, descending slowly, almost gracefully. Parachutes appear briefly against the sky. Others do not. As the formation struggles to regroup, the full cost becomes visible. Where once there were tight boxes of aircraft, now there are holes, entire elements missing. The doctrine promised that concentration would protect them, that the mass would shield the individual. Over the target, that promise feels fragile. Yet the bombs have fallen. The order has been executed. From a distance, it will be judged a success or failure by photographs and production numbers, by estimates and revisions. From here, it is measured in empty positions in the formation. And the mission is not over. The longest part still remains, the journey home, through the same defenses, with fewer aircraft and more damage than before. The turn away from the target offers no relief. It only changes the direction of danger. The bombers are lighter now, faster, but also exposed. Formations are thinner. Defensive fire overlaps less cleanly. Every gap is an invitation. German fighters take advantage immediately. They no longer need complex tactics. The withdrawal route is predictable. Altitude and heading are known. Controllers on the ground feed updates continuously, vectoring interceptors toward damaged and isolated aircraft. A single bomber falls behind. At first, it is barely noticeable. A slight drop in airspeed. An engine struggling to keep temperature. The pilot compensates, pushing power where he can. But the formation keeps moving. Doctrine offers no flexibility here. To slow down is to endanger everyone. To break formation is to risk collision. So the gap widens. Inside the trailing aircraft, the crew understands what is happening. No one says it out loud. The intercom remains focused on systems checks, bearings, engine readings. Professional language. Controlled voices. German fighters arrive moments later. They circle first, observing, measuring response. Then they attack, one after another, from different angles, staying just outside the strongest arcs of fire. The bombers' gunners do what they can. Tracers reach out, bright and defiant, but the sky feels too large now, too empty. Elsewhere, flak reappears. The withdrawal path crosses additional gun belts, secondary defenses, meant to punish damaged formations on their way out. The bursts are lower, closer, timed to the descending altitude of wounded aircraft. Fragments tear through wings already weakened. Control cables snap without warning. A pilot fights the yoke as the aircraft begins to list. The nose drops slightly. He corrects, overcorrects. The bomber shudders but remains airborne. For how long, no one knows. The order still applies. Press on. Do not circle. Do not turn back. Every mile westward is a mile closer to safety, but also a mile flown under threat. The sky is no longer a single battle. It is dozens of individual struggles happening at once, crews making decisions in isolation, pilots choosing between altitude and speed, navigators recalculating routes around weather and damage. There is no coordination now beyond the most basic signals. Some bombers regain partial escort as they near the edge of German-controlled airspace. Allied fighters reappear, low on fuel but aggressive. Their arrival brings momentary relief. But it is uneven. Not everyone is reached in time. A bomber limps toward the coast, engines coughing, altitude slowly bleeding away. The shoreline appears ahead, dark, distant, promising. Then, another attack. This one is brief, efficient. The bomber descends toward the water, controlled at first, then faster. There is no explosion, just impact, and then nothing. By the time the surviving aircraft cross back over the sea, the formations are shadows of what they were that morning. Men scan the empty positions beside them. They count subconsciously. They always do. England emerges through haze and cloud. Familiar landmarks, friendly airfields, but the relief is muted. Landings are tense. Aircraft come in hot and heavy, some without flaps, some without brakes. Ground crews rush forward as engines shut down unevenly. When the last bomber rolls to a stop, the airfield feels too quiet. The order has been carried out exactly as planned. Now comes the accounting. The debriefing rooms fill slowly. Crews arrive in small groups, some still wearing helmets, others carrying them loosely at their sides. Faces are streaked with sweat and grime. Eyes are tired, unfocused. Someone starts counting before anyone asks them to. A handwritten board is brought out. Chalk numbers are added and erased. Aircraft landed. Aircraft overdue. Aircraft confirmed lost. Each mark carries weight. Officers collect reports with practiced efficiency. Times over target, flak intensity, fighter opposition, bomb release confirmation. Everything is recorded in neutral language. The language matters. Losses are heavy. Opposition is strong. Damage is moderate to severe. The words create distance. Behind them are crews that did not return, names that will not be read aloud yet, empty chairs that no one looks at directly. Strategic bombing requires analysis, and analysis demands structure. Photographs from reconnaissance aircraft will be examined, bomb patterns measured, production estimates revised. From this distance, the mission can be reduced to charts and tables. But in the barracks, the accounting continues differently. Men sit on bunks, staring at the floor. Some clean equipment that does not need cleaning. Others write letters they may never send. A navigator stares at his map, folded exactly as it was that morning. He traces the route again, this time in reverse, wondering where things changed. A pilot replays the moment his formation broke. The second he realized they would not all make it back together. No one talks about doctrine here. They talk about crews, about who was flying which aircraft, about who had just finished a tour and who was counting missions. The numbers matter because they decide everything. Replacement crews will arrive. New aircraft will fill the hard stands. The operational tempo will continue. That is the design. But something has shifted. The losses are not abstract anymore. They are too concentrated, too predictable, too closely tied to the same assumptions. Somewhere above the North Sea, reconnaissance aircraft are already preparing to photograph the targets. Their images will be sharp, clear, useful. They will show damage, but they will also show something else. Bomb patterns that drifted, gaps where formations thinned too early, evidence that precision depends on more than courage and discipline. The order achieved its objective on paper, but the cost raises questions that cannot be ignored. Can unescorted bombers survive deep penetration? Can formation fire truly defend against coordinated fighter control? Can losses be sustained at this rate? These are not moral questions, they are operational ones, and they will force change. The men in the debriefing room do not know this yet. They only know that tomorrow, another mission is already being planned. Maps will be unfolded, routes drawn, orders issued. The air war is not slowing down, but it is learning. And the next order will not look the same as the last. In the days that follow, the mission is dissected piece by piece. Photographs arrive first. High-altitude reconnaissance images are laid out on long tables. Analysts lean in close, magnifying glasses in hand. They trace bomb craters, note blast patterns, compare them to aim points chosen weeks earlier. The results are mixed. Some targets show clear damage. Buildings destroyed, rail lines cut. Production interrupted, at least temporarily. Other areas tell a different story. Bombs fell wide. Formations released early. Smoke and flak disrupted aim. The precision promised by daylight bombing appears uneven when measured against expectations. The losses, however, are undeniable. Numbers circulate quietly at first, then more openly. Percentages, ratios, projections. At current rates, entire bomber groups would be exhausted in a matter of months. This is not a matter of morale. It is a matter of sustainability. Strategic bombing depends on continuity aircraft, crews, training pipelines, maintenance capacity. Every missing crew represents months of preparation lost in a single afternoon. Senior commanders meet far from the airfields. Maps are replaced by charts, routes by graphs. Lines trend downward in ways that are difficult to ignore. The assumptions behind the order are re-examined. Daylight bombing was meant to be accurate enough to justify the risk. Self-defending formations were meant to reduce dependence on escort fighters. The theory held until the bombers flew beyond escort range. Here the system showed its limits. German fighter control proved more flexible than anticipated. Attacks were coordinated, persistent, and timed to moments of maximum vulnerability. Flak belts were layered, not static. The order had not failed through error. It failed through exposure. Solutions begin to emerge, tentative at first. Longer range escorts, revised routing, changes in formation spacing, adjustments to bomb run procedures. None of these are simple. Each requires time, resources, and acceptance that the original doctrine is incomplete. Meanwhile, the missions continue. Crews fly again, under slightly altered instructions. Minor tweaks, incremental changes, but the core problem remains. Deep penetration without continuous fighter cover is still dangerous. The lessons are being learned in real time, paid for with aircraft and men. The order that sent thousands of bombers into danger was not unique. It was representative, an expression of strategic necessity colliding with operational reality. By late summer, the pressure becomes unavoidable. A new requirement is formalized. Bombers must be escorted for the full length of their missions. This is not a theoretical preference. It is a conclusion drawn from loss reports and mission outcomes. Aircraft designers, tacticians, and commanders are now aligned on the same point. The air war cannot be won by bombers alone. This realization reshapes planning across the theater. Escort development accelerates, mission profiles shift. The balance between risk and effect is recalculated. The order has done its work. Not just over enemy cities, but within the command structure itself. What follows will redefine how the air war is fought. The changes do not arrive with ceremony. There is no announcement that the old way has ended. No single moment where doctrine is officially rewritten. Instead, the shift happens quietly, through revised mission plans and altered priorities. Routes are adjusted. Escort requirements become non-negotiable. Risk calculations change tone. The order that once sent thousands of bombers deep into danger is not condemned. It is contextualized, studied, absorbed. It becomes a reference point. Future missions still carry danger. Bombers are still lost. Crews still fail to return, but the pattern begins to change. Losses become less concentrated. Survivability improves, incrementally, mission by mission. Long-range escorts extend farther east. German fighters are forced to engage under different conditions. The balance in the air shifts, not suddenly, but decisively. What endures from that earlier order is not just its outcome, but its lesson. Strategic bombing will always require decisions made far from the battlefield. Men at desks will always weigh objectives against cost. That is the nature of industrial war. But the air war has learned something irreversible. Technology, doctrine, and human limits must align, or the price becomes unsustainable. The crews who flew that mission are not remembered in charts or planning documents. They exist in unit histories, in photographs, in letters preserved by families. Their experience reshaped the way the war in the air would be fought, not through rhetoric, not through ideology, but through consequence. The order achieved what it was designed to do, and in doing so, it ensured that no future order would be given the same way again.